Dry your tears, will always be here, whether in Declan or Dell. Your efforts were wasted, your strategy shared, and Erie still prevails. Well, I guess we're mad, and we made them mad. That's why we're still calling, laughing just like lonely Tony. Oh, oh, when we're kicking as a war, I don't care what they say, local anyways. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. Break, jump and walk, two books and make it more. Oh yeah, we got three blues, win without backbone too.
online, but it would be so good if they could actually port some players from that into Eve.
It's almost like you can't see the intro coming around.
I shut up, but I didn't want to start talking in case I was talking when it happened.
So, like, the viewers are like, hey, have they been talking for like a half an hour or something before they even get to the show?
No, we just generally tend to fuck with Eric every single time that he starts a show.
Yes, and then all of a sudden everything switched up on one of the screens. So I'm gonna play with that while we're doing it here on the Chaticons or whatever the hell we call them. But hey, welcome everybody to another episode of Push to Talk. We've got a full group of people and lots to talk about today. We took a little holiday last weekend because it was a holiday. For most people in the United States, however, Eric was doing yard work, so it was a lot of fun for me. I was dying.
Why are you talking about yourself in the third person?
He is royal now.
Because I can. It's, no holidays allowed. That's true. I was putting in, so people know, I was putting in new LED landscaping, smart landscaping. Mm-hmm. A little RGB action, so I've got little RGB spotlights all over the house, so I can do whatever the hell I want. Yeah. I'm inspired by our neighbor down the street.
We were just discussing stuff like that in TIS earlier today. The fact that people like you with nice professions and nice income stream run around doing mowing and shit like that. Opportunity cost, it's a nightmare. You are burning money. You're throwing money out the window.
What by doing landscaping?
We were discussing the good old Eve meme. If I mine it, it's free. And then we ended up talking about the value of labor. And we talked about how if you are a C-level person, if you're mowing your own lawn, you're doing it wrong.
I have a 16-year-old that mows my lawn. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. If you're a C-level guy and you're a parent and you get your kids to do it, that's fine. Of course, it's a little bit child labor abuse, and you should really hire an illegal instead.
You forget that sometimes it's fun to mine. It was a lot of work. Yeah. I'm abused. I'm working on my front door now. I'm painting my own front door. Yeah, that's a chore. Oh my God!
But
don't ever.
Of course, if you're burning your own money, that can be very fun, and then it's a hobby, and then you're paying for
money.
it. You're just not making money because opportunity cost wise is like what. A fraction of like a fifth of your effective salary, right?
Weekend.
He was probably just supervising.
No. I was actually doing work, man. I was trucking wheelbarrows full of freaking mulch around. I was laying wire. My dad was pretending he's an electrician. That was great. Nothing's burned down, so we're good.
And he didn't electrocute himself, which is good.
Yeah.
I was just inspired because there's a new piece up on RNN from Elizabeth.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good. And she kind of triggered me into this whole old school, if I mine it, it's free, and opportunity cost, and what's a good PvP game, and what's different about EVE. So, yeah, I'm now actually writing an article to counter that. So.
Yeah, you're wrong. Anyway, let's do a little station identification here. So, not really station identification. I'm just making that shit up. Rickland75, thank you for the follow early on in the show broadcast. We also have Taryn Lazarus, subscribed Tier 1 for 7 months. They're on a 1-month streak. Fantastic. We need green screens. I have a green screen. I choose just to use the VCam. Fuck it.
I have a 50-cent screen, green screen from a
screen
camp.
And Seabass Unique. Subscribe with Twitch Prime, and they've been subscribed for 7 months. YOLO, yes, definitely. And
thank you, dude.
So we gave our shout outs, and the other thing I'm doing is just so you know, Caleb, I have a wraparound porch, so I'm repainting all the railing and all the posts and everything. I'm painting my front door, and we're repainting all the trim, but I'm not stupid enough to do the second story, and I did hire somebody to do that to make you happy. Just to make you happy, Caleb.
No, don't get me wrong. It's completely good stimulus economy if you try to do your own electric stuff or do your own plumbing, because you're going to break it so hard that you're going to have to actually hire someone for more hours than initially required. So keep going.
Keep going. No, I would not do my own plumbing. Yes, but I would. I would run electricity. It's not hard. Sometimes.
If you're watching audio only, you don't have to look at these ugly mugs. To be honest, I wouldn't recommend you even watch this podcast. I don't know what you're doing here anyway. People ask me, they say, "Do you do a podcast?" I say, "No."
No.
No.
I actually came back courtesy of my daughter, because apparently she'd been cyber stalking me, and she was asking, "Why the fuck are you not doing shows anymore?"
I didn't even know you had a daughter. Funny. How terrible is that?
Yeah, she's 21 and she's a geek, so she actually does gaming, and I think she might actually have been talking to her friends about the fact that I'm playing this crazy, awful game, and I'm actually doing all these shows, and then she was just pointing out, "Why have you not made anything for about a year?" It's like, well, I've been doing university stuff, sorry.
Yeah.
All right, so...
It's a time suck.
Time suck or time sink?
Suck.
Not time suck.
Quick little refresh.
It sucks your time.
Look at that. Quick little refresh. I fixed the... I'm going to call them Chattacons.
Yay!
I also removed my chair, but I'm still sitting down, so...
You're not, crouching or something?
No, not really.
Okay.
So, have we actually properly introduced Noisy yet?
No, we didn't. No, but his name's,
Yes, but what about the 1.5% of EVE players who have actually played for more than 3 days after being introduced to the game? They might not know who Noisy is.
If they played long enough to actually stay in the game and get player retention, they most likely must actually know Noisy.
If you don't know who the hell Noisy is, just get the fuck out.
You'd be surprised how many people don't know me, and it's, all you have to do is go to FanFest or you go to EVE Vegas, and it's it will let you know exactly how unknown you really are.
I'm going to be nice to you for a second, Noisy. I think you are the equivalent of Socrates in EVE.
Socrates? Seriously?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say something about a crime reporter, that's stuck at a local paper.
No, it's just the way that you smooth and move around at FanFest and talk to everyone.
Noisy, are you going to Vegas?
I am going to Vegas.
We're drinking.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I couldn't drink at in Toronto because I was on some medication. I should be off of everything because my surgery's over, so I should be okay to drink at Vegas.
Fantastico. Well, I mean, you could watch us drink. I mean, we're okay with that too. I mean, but yeah, you just
No,
gotta
that's
hang.
okay.
You gotta hang.
I mean, it's bad enough when I watch Dirk drink and get sloppy and everything. It's like I'm not gonna watch you guys too.
Yeah, but we're not like Dirk. I mean, not that I have anything against Dirk. I love Dirk. He's a great guy. Yeah, we don't drink like that. We're just happy all the time. Just making fun of each other, having a good time. So let's see. So what do we want to talk about first? Changes, Sinos,
I think we should let
Following
Noisy
PCU?
comment. Yeah,
Velocity
let's
of
go
ISK?
on the number stuff.
Velocity of ISK. That's a
Let's
troubling
talk
little
numbers.
number.
Crunch numbers.
I like the number 7.
7. Olmeca Gold. Oh my god. I mean, his tweets just fucking. Oh my god. Just. Oh my god. Were you just. Don't get me started on Olmeca Gold because I think he's like I might be dumber having read some of his tweets.
Well, Olmeca was the reason that Noisy decided to write that article, right? Noisy, you pretty much start out the whole article about the numbers with his name.
Well, okay, so basically, Omeka got stupid on the Meta Show last weekend in chat.
Whoa.
And
Well, I mean, that's like the equivalent of like Antonio Brown tweeting and getting released from the Raiders. Okay, sorry.
yeah, and so basically, like everybody was talking about the August numbers, and Omeka came in and started saying that we were wrong because the July MER doesn't prove anything. Well, you got Tuzzy, who is going off and he's been doing the concurrent numbers, and I went on to Dotland and pulled all the activity numbers that I could. And we're all talking about August numbers, and Omeka saying you guys are all wrong because the July numbers show this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Omega basically did one of those fingers in ears and then la la la, right? You guys can't deduce anything from the numbers. You don't have the numbers. Only CCP's got the numbers and all that stuff. Even though we have them here from the last 3 months, and they're pretty much showing the things that we're expecting and that we've been commenting on. And we pretty much dedicated an entire show to this, not last week, but the week before, where we pretty much ran all of it down in detail and deduced exactly what it was showing us, right? Of course, there might have been a few things that we can't say with 100% certainty, but it's very clear what the numbers are saying.
Yeah.
The biggest concern I have, this is my only comment I will make on the matter, is that just by looking at the wording of his tweets, what he was saying, he went into the summit optimistic, saying, I trust CCP. They've got the numbers. They've got the facts. I trust them at the helm to do the job to keep Eve alive. They're doing it. They're only continuing the blackout because the data must say it's working. 4 days after this summit, and he's gone, well, I've got concerns. We've done all we can.
Oh, fuck.
It's, as they said, he's gone through the curtain. He's gone on to the other side, and he's gone behind the scenes of. It's like when you realise that the casting couch really isn't offering a job, and she knows about it all along. The magic's gone.
It's kind of like
hold it. That's
kind of like
wow.
believing.
Hold it. That's not real.
It's kind of like believing in God, right? It's like kind of like believing like just like fervently about about the sort of God and everything like that, and then sort of having second thoughts when you see like people installing like a lightning rod on the church, right? Kind of like going, I'm not too sure about this now.
I mean, I'm being very careful with the stuff I'm saying because obviously I don't want to get into personal. But if we just look at the tone, because always more gets said by what's not said. The fact he didn't come out of the summit saying he's super optimistic, he feels great, he's looking forward to rejuvenal everything. He basically, and I'll get the tweet up so I'll be able to quote him.
Well, you just stepped on my dreams to the point where I have to now delete 50 gigabytes of my porn collection. So seriously.
I really don't know where we go after that statement.
Well, he opened it, right?
I'm trying to figure out.
Telling me that Constant Couch is fake. What the fuck?
I'm trying to think of where we go with that. Do we go? What do you mean you only have 50 gig?
Well, it's or old do we go with,
it's not downloaded? Shit, you have 50 gig downloaded?
It's old stuff. It's not in 1080p, so that's why it's only 50.
Remember,
that's all of his homemade stuff.
It's not the size of your It's not the size of your collection. It's the quality that matters.
Yeah, and don't try dissing my personal private collection. Those are good recordings, and they're definitely not fake.
They're good recordings, and they're not fake. Okay. No, we can't stream. Well, we can apparently if you watch CCP stream from the hot tub scene. But okay. Here's a number that kind of struck me, guys. So
can I just get in with the quote?
Go ahead, Miss.
So this is the quote: "I am leaving the summit semi-optimistic, but semi-worried for our beloved game. There are possible pathways for this game to get back on track of organic growth. There are also pathways in which it can deteriorate. All I can say, CSM did its job, and the ball is in CCP's court."
Yeah, someone got a wake-up call, that's for sure.
Well, I think somebody figured out, just because you're representing his comments on nullsec, I'll address later. But here's a couple of the things that that we know. We know CCP has data, and they have different data than we have because they have access to everything, right? The challenge has always been historically. This isn't something new. Is CCP's ability to properly interpret the data.
And this is a mess because they keep launching things too fast or in too big chunks. So they can't actually do the proper analysis of the data, and they don't leave it long enough to actually do something meaningful, tweaking it, which is why we usually call these things band-aids, right? Because when they actually have enough collected data to see what the effect has been of something they've changed, they decided not to iterate on it, and that's one of the main problems, right? Yeah. We can go back in history, and that's always been the case, right? They always say, "Oh, we can't change this now. People have been acclimatized to it, and it's too much devour cost, blah 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 blah," and that means that they're just going to leave it hanging, right? And we can keep raging on these things all the time. But last week, I really got into the mood of just starting to see if we can't talk about the positive things, right? See if we can't point out that there's a reason that we're still playing this game. There's a reason that not everyone is quitting. And what I've been seeing the leaks from Eve Echoes, I'm actually not that disgruntled anymore. I know that it's a completely different game, but it just proves that CCP are still doing CCP things, and they're a little bit smarter than they were the last few times they did this.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Echoes is really a CCP thing, but
Echoes.
Let me throw
Echoes is good because it was actually contracted out to another company. They just provided assets and modules. That's why it's a working product.
So I did put the Eve Offline link in there. There's something I want you guys look at. I want to go down to the newborn players section of the Tranquility Graph, right? And so one of the big things that he's been hanging in, and by the way, we don't say any of this to tell everybody that the game is doomed and things like that. We are critical to bring things to the front of people's thoughts and make sure that they hold CCP accountable for making the game better rather than worse. One of the big things Hilmar's been hanging his hat on has been, hey, how many people try out EVE Online on a regular basis, right? How many new players are getting, they're just not retaining them, right? So I want you guys to take a look at three graphs under newborn players that are particularly interesting to me. Okay. The second one down on the left, the past month, I want you to look at the trajectory of new players created. I want you to go to the right one and look at the past 3 months and look at that trajectory. And I want you to look at the past year in general. Those pretty much tell a not good tale according to the things that Hilmar has been professing, right? We get 600 billion trillion new users every year, and only 1% of them stick around, which I think is still complete and utter bullshit, because if that were true and we were getting that many new players, this place would be just hitting the sky with PCU, but it's not. And, really, since they started their era of chaos, new player creation has gone in the dumper.
Yeah, but aside from that, this is really a point of the sky is falling. And they've done this a few times. Pretty much every time they start reiterating on the new player experience. And nothing has changed. And these numbers are frustrating me. And I think Noisy will agree with me that we've heard from people like Carneros, and we've looked at analysis from way back in 2003 to 2006 from scientific papers. These numbers are not that bad. They're pretty much standard. They're what's expected with the current age of the game. There's nothing inherently doom and gloom about the retention numbers. I don't understand why we keep going back to that.
I didn't say retention, right? What I said was the new players created versus what the CEO has been professing the last couple months, right?
Yeah, and this is really about promoting the game. This is about CCP getting more people to actually start the character creation so they can be converted into EVE players. This is not EVE that's changed, it's CCP. When did we see a This is EVE video from CCP? Something of that quality? I can't remember.
Well, I think that This is EVE videos that were created by Loxy Ryder were better than CCP's, but that goes without saying.
Yeah, but the point is that we don't get the good stories about EVE. We don't get the player-to-player, or rather the player ambassador stuff. Players aren't actually marketing on behalf of CCP, and CCP don't seem to be marketing their game anymore. So this is not about player retention. It's not about conversion. It's about getting warm feet through the door.
But that's what I'm pointing out with this reference. The warm feet have suddenly stopped or slowed down dramatically, right? I mean, they had a nice little peak there just before he espoused how many new players are coming into the game on a monthly basis. And then you have the Age of Chaos, and then look at those numbers just drop through the floor.
And it's like they speak with this cleft tongue, right? Because you have Hilmar telling you one piece of fact, which is kind of true, right? EVE is getting a lot of new players into the game month on month compared to other games and compared to its age. This is true. And then he starts talking about panic with the player retention. But the thing that Ghost was pointing out is that player retention in EVE is pretty much only other players. It's us picking up new players. So if you nerf our game and chase us out of the game, your player retention is going to tank like crazy.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things, right? I asked us a couple weeks ago, how many of you are telling your friends that this is a great game and they should all come and play? And, it used to be, hey, I rate it, a 3.5, 4 out of 5. It's a great game. I love it. And now it's kind of like, and part of that is not really knowing what CCP is doing and not really seeing what their vision is and what they're trying to achieve here with these changes, right? There's no grand plan. It's like, hey, we're just gonna, fuck with physics.
This is why it kind of resembles the Summer of Rage. It's not. It's the same flavor. It's nothing like that Perfect Storm, but it's the same flavor. It's the player base saying, you're doing it wrong, start fixing the game. And eventually we're going to have to get to a point where Hilmar comes out and does one of those almost apologies going, oh, okay, you were right. Maybe spending 70% of the developer hours on new player stuff and trying to do a pump and dump is not the solution. The solution is to fix the game for the veterans so we can actually play it and tell our friends to come and play.
And there's some truth to that. The other thing, too, is, and I want people to watch EVE Offline, if you look historically, there's a couple things that happened in August in EVE. Number one, Plex goes through the roof the last couple weeks of Eve. Okay? Didn't happen. The next thing is you are supposed to have the weekend before the Labor Day holiday in the U.S. You generally have a big uptick, and then the Labor Day holiday chills out and goes down a little bit, and then the following 2 weeks are the beginning of a big uptick, and that'll last 2 to 4 weeks, and then it'll level off somewhere. But it levels off higher than it was previous, to August. And that's the end of your summer slump in the. But if you don't see new highs, that is a concerning thing to me. I don't know how concerned CCP is, but it doesn't, as a player, bode well. And I'm sitting here trying to, and I don't know about the rest of you, and please chime in after I say this, especially you, Noisy, because you're not here all the time. It's almost like. Do you really want to do and spend any? Because Eve is a game of people with a vision of the long term, right? We're not really focused on the next 3 months. We're focused on the next 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, because that's how this game is played. It's not an instant game for a great many people. How much effort do I put in my future planning, right, at this point in this game? Your thoughts? Noisy, I'll start with you.
I mean, at this point, well, okay, I'm a little bit weird or a little bit different because I got a blog, and basically I have certain times allotted for Eve and I play Final Fantasy 14, so I play a little bit of that, and I've got my online computer courses that I take. So I've got like my budget, and basically because of this chaos era, I'm spending most, if not all, of my Eve time trying to figure out what they're doing and writing about it rather than going into the game and playing it.
How about you, Mist?
To be blunt, I just can't give a shit anymore for most of the Eve stuff because they're basically nerfing the big toys and the big stuff. So I can't be asked to fly those things anymore. So I'm not been asked to rat or mine to get myself into these big ships. So it's like, well, there's no point in ratting and mining because I'll be grinding away for a task to achieve something that I don't really care about anymore. That's why I haven't done much writing because honestly, I just don't care. That's the sad part. And when people stop caring, you don't really see them walking away. You just sometimes notice that they're not there anymore or not logged in.
Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna trigger Mist a little bit because people quitting or not playing for that reason might actually be a good thing in the long run. Because if the aspirations of the player base is only to get into a Titan or a Rorqual and sit there and do all this boring stuff all day, I don't really think that's a healthy thing. I think that's actually what destroyed the game. Because if your motivation is not to play the PvP game and the sandbox, it's really not going to grow. Because what's on the box is this is a simulator. This is why it's fun. If it's only a PvP game like another shoot people in the face thing or a PvE game like Candy Crush, I don't really want to play this. There's other games out there that I would play instead.
Yeah,
so I agree with that.
Games
Yes,
in the world. I mean, one of them is obviously Warframe, but having a Titan or getting yourself into a Titan or getting yourself into Rorquals in order to get yourself into a Titan should be a means to an end, not like your primary gameplay that you want to be doing day in, day out. Like, I mean, grinding for a Titan takes a while, so it is gonna, is going to be a time sink. But you should be also, really willing and desiring to jump into fleets, whether they be, quick response defensive fleets or roams or this, that, and the other.
I just think that in my defense, because you're saying that I'm pretty much shitting on Titan players or Rorqual players. That's not the point. Oh. The point is that right now it doesn't do anything for the rest of the sandbox. It's all internalized solo self-sufficiency stuff, and it's just completely boring. A Titan doesn't create any activity. It doesn't create much emergent gameplay. It just sits there and plays Umbrella all day. It's just become so boring.
Yeah, I agreed. But the idea is that they did fester and allow this industry empire building to manifest, and they didn't do anything to stop it when it was starting to grow. So they've left it alone. Basically, they've left it alone to grow and grow and grow in the lab, and they've come back and gone, wow, this place is now infected in shit state, because they didn't treat it when it was bad. So yeah, I do agree. People just spamming mass titans. I mean, in the day, if that's what they enjoy, then that's fine. But the problem is, they still make up a large number of the player base. So if they start to go away, we're just going to have a cascading effect with more people to start playing. Because if big Titan pilots mining away or ratting away aren't there anymore, Bombers Bar are going to have less things to shoot at. If Bombers Bar aren't getting lots of targets, people aren't going to be joining their fleets. If they don't get the critical number they need to go out and do a thing, they will probably stop running. Like, how many bombers do you need to hit a target? 50? 75? 100? What happens if you're not pulling the numbers anymore? That thing ceases to be.
Let's remember that the original premise or the intention of the Titans was to kill your enemy, right? Now it feels like just 1v1ing or blob versus blobbing. It's not actually something that does what's on the tin, right? It was supposed to be this massive thing that you used in these big wars. Now it's just a small rifle, pretty much, in your arsenal.
People see it more as a way of like, oh, I'd really love to get into making X number of ISK, like the big kind of leagues in terms of ISK creating, when you're sort of bosoning havens and stuff in a Titan. Like, it's like no, that should be a nice to have as a thing to have already, to already have a Titan. Like, to be fair, it shouldn't really be that profitable.
And let's remember that
in the grand scheme of things, because having a Titan should be primarily about, having something that can, kick the living shit out of your enemy when you want it to.
Well, the point is that back in the day when the Titan was at 5,000 times the current cost, right? It was not a Titan versus Titan. It was an Orc versus Orc, right? You had to invest fuck tons of man hours to get into these tools. So it was an empire tool. It was an empire scale weapon. Now it's really not, right?
Yeah, it's true, but that's because the technology required to leverage the materials to build the Titan, which hasn't really changed that much at all. From back in the day when it took months and months and months and an entire sort of alliance in order to actually build it. Like, it hasn't really changed in terms of the amount of stuff required. It's just the tools that we use to basically get the resources to build it, and the means and methods of building it have just been increased in terms of technology, like just better technology in terms of being able to do this. Yeah, it's kind of funny, because like you go on about like CCP always kind of nerfing technology in the game, but
they're really not, because they keep adding these quality of life changes and these self-sufficiency changes and all of these reductions in actual strain and cost and tedium, right? That keeps being thrown around. It's tedious to mine to get into my Titan. Yeah, you're not supposed to do it. Someone else in your group is supposed to do it. Someone that actually likes mining. This is the whole sheep and wolf thing. We've scared away all the sheep because there's no role for them anymore. We've entirely destroyed the dependency.
You can't massively upend the entire kind of environment in order to like bring the sheep back. Like you need to make sure that it's. I mean, you don't basically go completely the other side. You make sure that it's balanced. So so both the wolves and the sheep have a reason to be in this game, and so you end up basically you don't want to actually entice actual sheep to the game. You want to entice new players who find out about various different styles of play and go, actually, I quite like doing this sheepy kind of stuff.
Yeah, you basically gave them a much bigger mouth, a bigger stomach, and infinite fields to farm, right? So now less sheep needs to be around to actually feed the predators, right? So this is how CCP has destroyed their own ecosystem. They've made it so easy to actually feed the predators that now even the predators can't even have fun, because there's no fun in just going instantly to get your replacement. If there's no strain, if there's no loss, nothing's happening. The game is not fun.
Well, I mean, some of this is an aging game. Let's be honest, right? Because Eve, unlike a lot of games, there's no level progression, and we've talked about that before, right? Yeah. Thank you, Taryn.
You're not going. You're not using your level to basically say, haha.
Your level is skill points. You've accumulated them over time, or you've injected them, and really the way that you show the rest of the universe that you are a high level character is you own a Titan or two, or super caps or whatever, right? And being the biggest, right? It's like the BFG. People try to get into them. So over time, you're going to have, with an aging, player base, more people that have gravitated there, right? The other thing is, you're going to have people who have been in this game a long time. They've now accumulated the skill points that they're not a narrowly focused character in the game. They're a broadly focused character, right? So they have the skills to mine, and they have the skills to fly big ships. Okay.
They have all of it. There's no need for specialization.
Right. There's
because
no need.
You can SP everything you need.
It's just time, right? And I can go out. I need income, right, to get things. So if I want a big ship and I don't want to go pay $500 in Plex to get it, right, and convert it to ISK and buy the ship on my own, which is beneficial to CCP, I can cut the need for income down by mining my own Titan, okay, selling off my excess ore that I don't need, that I've mined, and then using it and building it myself, because I've been here for 16 years and I have more skill points than I will ever need. Right?
Yeah, there is that. There is an issue of
you
have a massively deep progression system, and the ability for you to go in every direction if you have the time and the inclination and the money. But the issue is, people have the time, or CCP has given people enough time and has bottled enough time in the source of injectors to allow people who have the money to also get anything and everything.
Misa is pointing out something interesting, right? Saying that he is running 20 plus accounts, right? That was a small corp back in the day. So what we have now is fundamentally that to play this game effectively, you have to virtualize a small corp just to run your own stuff solo, right? Then there's no incentive to do small corps at all. They've pretty much been made redundant and unemployed. So the only way that they can then be valued is when they get to a point where they have enough value and power and wealth and SP to actually be considered a small corp. So we can make mega corps that own all these small corps. This is the whole problem. They've removed specialty. They've removed the granularity. They've removed the variation of the game, right? By flattening everything into something one guy can do if they just add more accounts.
So Caleb, do you feel like, actually no, that's not gonna. I was gonna ask you, do you feel like players should have a skill point cap, and then obviously you can't go in all directions, but
No, I would put the limitation into space. Just put it in space, right? Instead of trying to put it back on skill points or stuff like that, just put it back into space. Remove the infinite slots for building. Remove infinite slots for labs. Put time sinks on refining and recycling. Put actual cost on repair bills. Make them nerf them so they don't actually give you 100% repair, because doing anything instantly is pretty much flattening the whole game and the whole ecosystem, right? And this is everywhere. And it's the same. Remove scooping cargo from space on freighters so we can get back to having big mining fleets operating in space again. There's so many things that could be done that's actually not that difficult to bring back specialization, to bring back value. I hate multi-boxing stuff. I know that it's popular. I just can't be asked, and I'm only asking for CCP to put a design in there to put a little bit of strain and cost in doing that, so I am worth something if I am only doing 1 or 2 accounts again.
Can I if I log into to World of Warcraft, which by the way is the first MMO, I can only log in with. I can't multi-box that, can I?
Yes, you can. You can definitely do it. Yeah, remember the whole.
Be skillful enough.
Remember the whole Iskboxer thing?
Yeah.
The reason that we had Iskboxer is that that Blizzard did something that inhibited the use of IS Boxer, and so therefore they were looking for another game, and they came over to Eve.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I could never. I mean, just a normal guy on his PC, right? Not putting any extra software on there. You can log in with one character at a time, or one account at a time, right?
Yeah, many of those automated or multi-boxing raid stuff, they're kind of botted to some extent, right? To actually be able to run them.
Yeah. The thing is, unfortunately for Blizzard, is they have the population and the reach. Let's put it this way, and the kind of the non-niche aspect of their game to be able to do that, right? Whereas I kind of feel that, if you remove the ability to multi-box in Eve, like it would, and CCP probably knows this, it would seriously hurt their their income.
Well, think of
in a disastrous way.
Yeah, you're lighting up 4 or 5 accounts with Sinos to jump shit places and things like that, right? Which I mean, you're going to fundamentally stop a lot of stuff, right?
But bringing all of these things back, right? It's going to require more players to do the same thing, and multi-boxing will not be entirely nerfed. It's just going to be more valuable to do less accounts because you can do them more efficiently. So it's not like it's going to entirely remove or crash multi-boxing or all accounts, but it will require more people playing, which actually will eventually bring more money to CCP.
The way you discourage people to multi-box constantly, but not actually remove it as a kind of a form of income for Eve, is to basically just make a lot more of the the day-to-day stuff be more, require more interplay, require more constant attention from multiple from cooperative play in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I know that means that some mundane stuff can end up being quite annoying and tedious, but you can make it not tedious by actually sort of getting game designers to actually think about it intelligently and redesign systems intelligently, rather than just some half-assed kind of system in order to actually just basically in order to basically just get the feature out the door, right?
No, but if there's added cost, right, and added tedium, right, the real value of your Titan will go up. So you're not actually losing out. The same, your actual activity in PvP, the value of that will go up. It'll be a lot more something that someone would pay you to do because you add all these points of tedium. And some people actually like this type of tedium. I know that this is the problem, right? This is why we ended up with this, what I call feralized cows, where Killer B is just doing 5 accounts, right? And then he's mining his own stuff. Well, someone in a Titan used to actually have a group that supported him. And that was usually composed of people that liked mining. So the fact that they made it easier made all these people fuck off, because there is no real value in industry. There's no real value in mining, not even ISK printing or market stuff. It's all been flattened, right? It used to be 100 times more valuable than it is now. And this is all because of these quality of life changes. They chased away the sheep, and now the wolves are starving.
Well, it's not quality of life anymore. That's the thing. Like, people talk about the changes as being quality of life changes. They're not quality of life changes anymore. They're convenience changes. That's all they are.
Yeah, and if
Like,
there is
we
no
gotta away
inconvenience,
from-
why should I want to fight you? I can have my stuff in my little corner of the universe. I don't need to fight you.
Yeah,
So-
because we got away from quality of life a while ago. It's been convenience changes.
Well, they screwed that up with the moon, so.
But it's also because they do these compounding things that they don't realize is so fucking horrible. Like we keep ending up talking about how anomalies would not have been a problem if they didn't also boost the roll call and they didn't also add SP. This is like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
Right? You're doing 3-time whammy. That's pretty much taking it from a 4 to 5% GDP cost to build a Titan to 0.05 in like 3 steps. There you go.
Well, so we only have about 15 minutes left because Mist has to go. I'm blaming Mist. See that I'm blaming you, Mist.
Miss can go. We can carry on. It's all good.
He's got video feed, man. He's missing my whole life.
Oh, okay.
I'll just put like a sticker over it, and
There you go.
you can just. I won't be here.
Echoes on.
He just won't be here. He'll just be streaming.
You can put your Chatterbait like be right back page up.
Chatterbait. But Noisy's here, and one of the things I wanted to talk about, right? So, and we started talking about this 2 weeks ago, right? We've had the ISK coming into the game has been dropping for 4 or 5 months, pretty standard. And then we had the changes, and we had a real dramatic shift. We had, they essentially raised the taxes to do transactions, which, functions in the grand scheme of the economy as pulling ISK out of the economy, right? That's one way governments have to relieve, the essential pressures of quantitative easing, right? The reverse of that, pulling the ISK back out of the game. But the one thing that became a big surprise to me was with this dramatic increase in sinks, now that we're out of balance, right? We have more sinks than we have faucets in the game. The velocity of ISK, the one thing that they can't control in the game, no government can control it, is the velocity of ISK. It's in the basement now, right? It had a substantial drop. When we look at those kind of indicators from an economic perspective, do we have any thoughts on that? But I want to start with Noisy because he hasn't said too much.
Yeah, what's the velocity of ISK this month? I didn't see.
It was super low. Let me look up the what is it? The August mirror, right?
Yeah,
Basically means that less people are shifting money
Trading.
around.
yeah, and just to give some background, the reason for the velocity of ISK coming up is because Hilmar mentioned it exactly as something I think he wanted to increase.
Well, the velocity did not increase. The velocity dropped through the basement.
It's lower than it's been for several years, right?
Yeah. So for those who don't know economic terms, if there's anybody out there, right, the velocity of ISK is the same as the M1, M2 type figures related to the velocity of money, is the number of times that one ISK is used to purchase things in a given period of time, right? So when a lot of people use the same amount of money to buy a lot of things, your velocity of money goes up. And when you slow down and move the use of money into other areas, the velocity goes down, which is one of the reasons in the U.S. where you see, quantitative easing over and over and over, yet the velocity keeps dropping because people put it into other things, stops inflation, right?
Yeah, it's because it's the activity of the economy, right? It's pretty much just an index on how much is happening in your economy. And you want to keep this at a certain point because pretty much every step of an economy has some sort of over unity and added effect, right? Mm-hmm. So it creates more value than you're putting into it. So if it starts dwindling and dropping down to low activity levels, so very low velocity of ISK, pretty much that shows that your economy is dying because people are not actually spending money. That means that less and less people will be able to be employed, be able to do something. And in EVE, this is very, very much similar to in the real world. And one of the major reasons that the velocity of ISK is dropping like this is mostly because of inactive players. It's not so much people leaving. Of course, that's going to reduce it too. But it's more the fact that everyone that I've talked to that actually have money to actually use and create activity from are saying, I'm not doing anything. I'm in a holding pattern. I just log in and look at things, and then I listen to people. I'm not doing anything yet. And most of them lapse their accounts, right? At least their old accounts.
So in September of 2017, right, the velocity of ISK was 0.6. For most of 2017 and 2018, it was much more in the realm gyrating between 0.7 and 0.8. Okay, since probably mid second quarter, maybe 2018 here, first quarter of 2018, I'd say. It has been in a decline, but the decline was much sharper in the velocity of ISK. It had kind of plateaued out and had a little resurgence there, fourth and first quarter. So 2018 fourth quarter, 2019 first quarter, it had kind of plateaued. But as you look into February through July, the rate of velocity decrease was increasing. And if you look at the slope of that line, it is much more. It was much more in line with the drop in the ISK faucet, right? Ratting in particular. And then as soon as you hit July of this year, it's fallen down below 0.5. So,
but to be honest, burning ISK out of the game or increasing the faucets and slowing down the velocity of ISK, because if some of that velocity is up because of things that we would actually not like in the game, it's not necessarily all bad. Which we see it's things like botting, and we see the ISK bounties falling off a cliff, right? So many of these things might actually be required changes and tweaks and fixes to the game.
I'm not saying it's not.
I'm just trying to point out that one of the things that I get a little bit frustrated about is when everyone is screaming about ISK faucets like in this game, they completely miss the important point, right? Because you cannot build a ship or any tool in EVE from ISK at all. It doesn't create anything. It just exchanges stuff from players, right? So it's really only going to change potentially the price point of stuff in EVE. And this is really not a problem. We're not seeing these extreme price hikes and changes in consumer price index from the ISK, right? And even then, it's not that as if it's a big problem. It's not like people can't survive and afford stuff. So the problem in EVE is the other way around. It's the resource faucets. It's not the ISK faucets.
Well, the part of the velocity of ISK going down like it is, it's okay. So theoretically, because of the way that the ISK supply is calculated, people leaving the game should then offset the ISK supply going down, and the activity going down should theoretically be the same. So it should offset stuff. But you would think that if the ISK supply is going down, you would hope that the velocity of ISK is going up, and that's not happening. It's the exact reverse.
Yeah, this is one of the problems with the mirror, that there's so many mistakes in it, and it's not really being changed, and it's not being iterated on, because even though us nerdy financial guys have been talking to the initial guy creating it, Quant, about all these things that need to be changed. So whether you're talking about import-exports being completely whack because they're pretty much showing only where Titans are moving and nothing about market stuff. There's so many mistakes like this in the mirror, and it needs to be fixed. But there's no one at the helm interested in fixing it, because it's pretty much just a script that's being pushed a button every month, and then you just get this. It's all the same, and it's got all the old problems still, and it's not going to be fixed until they hire or appoint someone that actually understands economics.
Yeah, and
it muddies the water, though. Like, that's the other thing. It muddies the water in terms of people trying to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And if you're not fully understanding of the situation, like we just kind of said, there are issues with the MER and how it's presented to us, to not actually show us kind of the full picture as to what's going on. Like, you can clearly, and people have been reading it incorrectly and reading things into it that likely aren't even there.
And then you got things like one of my favorites is that you see these things like Delve's printing a lot of ISK, right? And yeah, they are. But that's only because there's a lot of people. And if you get these numbers without looking at them per capita and per area, you're not getting the right number. Then bringing a nerf bat to the goons is pretty much going to destroy your game, because it's not the goons making more ISK per capita than, say, the North, right? I remember we talked about this, that the GOTG was printing more ISK per capita than the goons way back, was it 6 months ago or something?
Yeah, we did do that.
This is just one of the mistakes about the MIA. You're going to make assumptions and conclusions that are wrong if you don't actually understand macroeconomics.
So my concern is, and this kind of brings the show kind of full circle as well, which may help with with Mist actually getting getting away in time and such things. But this aspect of giving us data that sort of is somewhat flawed in its presentation to us, but like you can see it as, oh, maybe CCP is being intelligent and not giving us the data because they know that we'll be able to dissect it in such a crazy way and be able to read ridiculous amounts of interesting stuff from it that could potentially be game breaking. But the other kind of thing is like, maybe they don't even realize that these mistakes in the MER. But
and this is
the one thing which I would say is, hang on quickly. The one thing which I would say that like actually speaks to potentially it being the latter is the fact that they're now driving their decisions based on data, and I mean, Olmec has kind of said that he's a little bit, or almost alluded to the fact that he's a little concerned about how that data is being used by CCP.
And someone said, do we have to have perfect data? Well, ideally, no. But if CCP is unable to actually understand their own data, and they're making assumptions and they're making changes to the game based on data that is fundamentally flawed and which the player base is actually more knowledgeable about, then we have a problem. And then they should release even more data to us so we can actually help them fix the game. Because when you got people, okay, I love these developers for what they do when they're doing stuff that they are experts in. But when you have people like Rise and Larrikin and Fozzie and Falcon trying to read the MER and they have no clue what they're doing. Maybe Hilmer does a little bit, but from what he said recently, it doesn't sound as if he understands what's going on. Bringing a faucet in to fix a sink that, the other way around. Bringing in a bigger sink, right, to fix a faucet problem is not going to solve it. It's the same when you're fixing tools, right? The ore and the minerals are not going away just because you keep nerfing your Rorqual. You're just adding more Rorquals.
Yeah. Just real quick, hold that thought, okay? Hold that thought, because I'm not going to derail you from the thought. Just want to give a shout out to Galaxier Gaming for gifting 5 Tier 1 subs during the show. Thank you very much, Galaxier Gaming, for giving those out to our viewers. It is greatly appreciated. It's very cool. Very cool. Thank you. All right. Sorry, McLeod, for interrupting you. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say the same thing and just say, the nice thing about that is the fact that it's currently September on Twitch, which means that that only cost Galaxia Gaming half of what it would normally cost him. So
Oh, really?
Cool thing. Yeah, dude. It's September. It's 50% off subs and gifted subs right now.
Oh,
all right, so
I did not realize that. So hey,
yes, we are currently sponsored by the Great Taste, which is Subway, able to buy that delicious 6 inches or 12 inches for only a fraction of the cost.
I'm sorry. I don't go to Subway.
It's funny.
I do Jimmy John's because they got 18 inches.
Everyone is talking about this nerf the Rorqual, and I agree that it needs to be fixed, right? I just don't necessarily think that a nerf is going to help anything, because it's just like having a fountain that's just spraying water everywhere, right? And you're trying to solve the fact that people can move water by making their cups smaller. No, you're just going to get more people with more cups.
By the way, I have to address something in the chat. I am not a Domino's kind of guy. I freaking hate Domino's. I am very much your local pizza shop on the corner kind of guy.
I was about
They
to
are
say
way
there's
better.
got to be some kind of pizza guy. You're definitely, if you're not a Domino's pizza, you're definitely a Papa John's or a local.
Oh no, local, man.
So
I grew
I'll
up
be
in a
going
pizza
off soon,
shop. I was thinner
but
back then, but I grew up in a pizza shop.
I'll be leaving soon. So my last thoughts, my last words is that we do have G Fleet that's in next weekend. So you'll be able to, hopefully we'll have something released there, and then we will have the last ever CCP Vegas before Goons go back to running the show again. So if you are going to Vegas, don't fret. Goons will be there again to save the day because they actually care and they want to keep it in Vegas. My 2 cents is something I'm looking forward to. Hopefully, it came from Hilmar himself. Titan Titans and super rare minerals was one of the talking points. So I expect to see some sort of a chance to build the world arc with the blueprints being dropped for it in Losec because they're now advancing to invading Losec, and similar to the Sanctuary invasions where you only get the blueprints in Losec, that's what we can expect to see. If not, I don't know what they can announce which will make me excited because I want to build a big thing, like a really big ship. I want to contribute to it. I want to be like the world's first. Look at that thing, that windscreen wiper. I built that.
Have a kid. You built that.
You didn't build that.
It's so much fun. I built 3.
He did.
He contributed though.
1 accidentally.
That thing because it's like I've been playing a lot of WoW Classic. Well, not a lot, but it's you have a load of the world's firsts again. So the first one who got to 60, the first person to down the bosses, the first this, you got all of these firsts again. Now, if they introduce a really big, fancy, expensive stuff again with new shit and everything like that, it's going to be another world's first, which people can help contribute and work towards. But yeah, possible world arc, I can imagine it. If not, I don't know what CCP are going to announce because something like that keeps people busy and in the game. Otherwise, I'm just going to be here talking shit on a podcast I tell my friends not to listen to.
There you go. There you go. All right, let's run around. Mist did his one last thing. Let's go to you, Caleb.
No, I just think it's such a tragedy that CCP have this very, very old code, and it's all infinite faucets everywhere. They don't seem to acknowledge the fact that if you want to fix a game that's not growing the way it was in the olden days, the only way to fix the economy is to start hammering on the faucets in a way that actually makes sense, and not in a depletion way, in a diminishing return way. Do the fucking calculations, make the algorithms that's required. It's not that hard. You did it before with office rental. Do it again with everything else.
All right. McLeod.
I guess the one thing I wanted to say is sort of related to what Caleb said. Like, if you've probably heard me on, Push to Talk a few times before, you probably know that I'm not a fan of infinite. Basically, sort of any game any sort of game mechanic where it's like infinite this, infinite that. So, yeah. Just get rid of those sorts of shit because it's lazy programming.
Absolutely. Noisy, you're up.
Yeah, well, just something that we didn't talk about was the security update and the 426% increase in bot bans in August as compared to July. That was a wonderful thing. Bots going to high sec means that high sec people are more likely to to report those things, which means that they're more out there, and not only are they getting caught more, but they're also making less money than they would in null, because everybody knows high sec income sucks.
I will just add on to that quickly. Nobody in nullsec likes bots either, because the people who aren't botting just get fucking pissed off that they exist out there and they see people botting. And trust me, nullsec people report a lot of fucking bots, and we see them for months and months and months and months and months, and nothing's done with them. So I can tell you that the uptick in banning bots is a wonderful thing for the game. And that's part of what muddies the data too, right? So that muddies the ISK leaving the game. You don't really know where it's coming from the mirror perspective, right? And you know that affects all the numbers that we talk about. All the ones that we talked about today are all impacted by that, right? When they ban bots.
And it's so weird. It's so much easier to recognize bots in other games, but in EVE it's a little bit difficult and tricky, right?
Yeah, well, especially with the if you haven't read the INN article about how to know when somebody is cloaky and warping to you, that's a big screw up by CCP. Do not use that thing, because it's pretty clearly an exploit, and you really shouldn't.
The thing is,
but understand that there are things that are out there that bots can use to become safe, right?
That screenshot was generated in a controlled environment with a capsule sitting on a grid with somebody sitting next to it warping. So if you're in an asteroid belt and you're mining or you're ratting away, your log file is just going to be running at the speed of sound. You're not going to see this. A normal person will not be able to use that log file to see it. However, having some sort of bot or automated system that flags up when it sees it, because it's always going to be, you can just read everything, and as soon as it sees the other ship initiated warp, initiates warp to you.
Yeah. All right.
And
so go ahead.
That's why with bots, right, and with multi-boxes, the point is that if you kill a lot of multi-boxes, right, this is going to generate hatred. That's going to potentially create content. You kill a lot of bots, nothing fucking happens. They don't give a shit.
Right. So the my one last thing is, there are a couple things in the mirror that, if I were the owner of a company, would concern me greatly. The first one's going to be the production versus destruction graph, right? You can see where destruction was dropping at a pretty substantial level. You can see where the Imperium went to war and destruction rose again. And you can see where the Drifter invasion absolutely killed all that destruction, and your destruction now resumed its fall, right? For the entire year of 2019, we have been watching production at a pretty rapid decline, right? When I look at those things, destruction falling, when I look at destroyed falling and mind falling, and I see everything is going down, I'm not, I don't, and combining that with the velocity of ISK falling, which in EVE doesn't equate to the same thing that it does in normal economics, right? There's nothing to really invest in. There are a couple things, but it's not quite the same. People aren't putting money in the stock market and things of that nature. And I see contraction of money, contraction of the ISK velocity, along with production falling, destruction falling, and mind falling. I don't see those as positive indicators in the game. So that's my one last thing. I want to thank everybody. Thank everybody who did their follows, did their resubs. Obviously, Glaxier Gaming for the gifting of several subs. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Noisy, for coming on to talk. It is always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. Can't wait to meet you in Vegas, and everybody else who joined, the regular crew, right? And for those who didn't know the Antonio Brown comment in the ping or earlier today, Antonio Brown has been a problem player in the NFL for a couple of years now. He's just a pain in the ass. And the big gamble was, hey, when is when are the Raiders going to have had enough of his bullshit? And apparently that was today. So he kissed away by being a bratty little child a $30 million guaranteed contract. So moral of the story is, if somebody's going to give you $30 million, don't be a dick to them.
I've got one last comment before we...
All right, Mist gets the last final thing.
So yeah, thanks again for all our subscribers. 1 week we will have more new subscribers than CCP.
By the way, I look at all those stats. I gotta go finish them before somebody yells at me. I gotta go do my job. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful Eve day, every one of you, and you have a great time. We are out of here as soon as I push the next button.
Latest.